Welcome to the week 3 go-to session. So this is session number 3 of the 4 we're hosting this month. As I mentioned in last week's session, this session will be almost entirely devoted to APA. So we talked a little bit about APA last week. And remember, I think I mentioned that for the outline assignment that I mostly wanted to see APA heading in the right direction. So that meant, paying attention to APA and trying your best, but I'm not going to be super nitpicky if some small details are off, because it's this week that we're going to go into APA pretty thoroughly. I have a blank Microsoft Word document open. I encourage you, if you wish to follow along, to also open up a blank Microsoft Word document. To give you some time to do that, though, I just want to quickly say that this week's major assignment is, actually writing the draft of the essay. Now, you need my feedback on the outline to be able to really do your best work on this assignment. And because the outline was extended, because it took me longer to get through all the worksheets, the due date was shifted from Sunday to Tuesday night. Actually, hopefully people can hear me. I just noticed that my mic wasn't completely in front of my mouth. But hopefully people could hear okay. Because the due date was extended from Sunday night to Tuesday night, I do feel some pressure. I've already started grading worksheets. I'm going to continue. And I know I said this last week with the worksheets, but I really am going to try harder this week to bang them out. I'm sure you noticed that the worksheets, there's a lot of feedback, right? I don't just write 2 or 3 sentences, slap a grade, and then move on. That said, I'm going to try to hopefully strike a stronger balance in terms of working quickly, but also giving people detailed feedback, because I do feel pressure to catch up. I don't want to take through Friday to grade things again, because that means that the essay draft will need to be extended, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Students don't really object to later due dates, but believe me, it eventually catches up with us, because next week especially, because just to give you a heads up, next week there will be peer review. We'll talk about that more in next week's session, but basically you'll have 2 of your classmates' papers distributed to you through turnitin.com, and you'll read those papers and answer a series of prompts. And then you'll get feedback on your essay draft, and you'll use that feedback to revise the paper, which will be due the last day of class. And it gets a little bit... Things get very crunched if, for example, everybody's handing in the essay on Tuesday of next week, because that means that there's not much turnaround time to work on peer review, to work on the revision, etc. So anyway, I'm getting too far ahead of myself, but basically what I'm trying to say is I'm going to work like the devil tonight and overnight to, if not get all of them graded, then get the vast majority of people's outlines graded, so that you wake up tomorrow, have feedback, and then can work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on the essay draft. Now, this is the essay draft instructions that you can see in front of you. You can read these on your own, of course, but I do want to point out that if you scroll down, you have actually 2 ad analysis examples. This guy here, it says Ad Analysis, Grade A paper. I'm going to go ahead and open that. This is the JEEP essay, okay, the JEEP essay that I wrote. So even though it says Jane, A student. By the way, you don't have to include your middle initial. I just jokingly put Jane, A student, right, because it's a student named Jane. So obviously an invented name, but this is me, okay? I wrote this paper. So you have the JEEP essay to study. You also have a former student's paper. And it's here, okay? Lots of students miss this. And I have to admit, I wish this stood out more, because it's kind of buried in the heading. Step 3, composing with care, essay example. So if you click on this link, then the essay opens up, okay? It's not downloadable. I think we wanted to avoid students just, downloading the paper, and I don't know. I don't see the problem of making a downloadable essay. My essay is downloadable, but you have to click on the link to access the second paper. And I think you can learn a lot by studying examples. Some students, despite the lectures, despite the discussions of writing, despite, last week was entirely devoted to the shape of the overall essay, right? That we're aiming for a 5-paragraph paper, an introduction paragraph, a conclusion paragraph, and in between you have those 3 body paragraphs, where one at a time in each of those paragraphs, you will discuss each of your 3 thesis points. And in response to your worksheet, I gave everybody advice on their thesis statements. Some people had thesis statements where I just said, thumbs up, looks good, run with this. Other people had it mostly in place. Maybe 2 of their thesis points were really terrific, but the third one could have been stronger. And yeah, there were a few people who needed to kind of rethink the thesis as a whole. But I gave everybody possible thesis points to consider. So hopefully nobody's feeling lost about that. But anyway, despite the lectures, despite the discussions, some people learn best just by looking at examples. And if you take the moment to read through this Diet Coke essay or my Jeep essay, then sometimes it clicks. Sometimes students think, oh, okay, finally, I get it. Like, yes, I can see what ad analysis looks and sounds like. So understand that you have examples, okay? Now, please do not imitate any wording. I think I mentioned this in another session, but where's my Jeep paper? Yeah, Jeep. The well-known brand practically markets itself with its reputation for ruggedness, independence, and adventure. And sometimes I see students, Call of Duty, the well-known game, practically sells itself with its reputation for. Come up with your own opening, okay? In other words, use the papers to get a sense of what ad analysis looks and feels like, but you should not be imitating actual wording, okay? As usual, if you have any questions at all during the session, feel free to ask them in the chat. I'll try to keep my eye open and aware of those comments that keep coming in. And finally, before we start talking about APA, just a reminder of what I said last week, which is that because I always begin with the major assignment and grade that first. So last week is the worksheet, this week it's the outline, and then I move on to the journal and McGraw-Hill. You do have flexibility in the sense that if Sunday's for example, the outline for this week or the essay draft that's going to, in theory, be due this Sunday, that should receive your primary attention. And yeah, if you have to put the journal or the McGraw-Hill Achieve module aside, you can do so, because you can comfortably assume that until Thursday, at least, I won't get around to entering grades for those, okay? But on, Thursday or Friday, when I do sit down to enter grades, that's when I expect to see those activities completed. And that's when I won't be so flexible to hear, oh, but I just needed more time, because I'll say, well, you had 3 or 4 extra days. Okay, so I think everybody understands that. Let's move on to APA. And the reason I have a blank Microsoft Word document open is because we're going to go through the steps. Okay, APA, by the way, covers 3 things. Layout, so how the document looks. This means everything from paragraphing to spacing to font size and type. Okay, so making sure the document looks like it's supposed to look. And by the way, both sample essays are in APA format. So this is how an essay should look, or the Jeep essay. Okay. This is how an APA formatted essay should look. So we're going to cover layouts. Why is this essay? There might be a problem with computer memory. There, it took a while for the wording to appear. Okay. But yeah, this is how a paper is supposed to look. So first we're going to focus on layout. Then we're going to create some in-text citations in real time and references. So again, if you have a blank Microsoft Word document open, that would be great. Or if you just want to later, once the video is uploaded to the area on FSO and you wish to watch the video again and follow along, you can do that as well. But yeah, I'm going to go through the steps. Keep in mind I'm using Microsoft Word for Mac. The PC version, it should largely be identical, but if things are slightly different, you'll have to figure out where those things are. Same thing if you're using the free version of Microsoft Word that's available online through Microsoft OneDrive. You just have to Google Microsoft OneDrive. That is a free version of Microsoft Word, but I do know that, it doesn't come with all the bells and whistles. You should be able to do everything, but you might have to hunt around for certain functions. If you're using a completely different program like Pages, which is the Mac version of Microsoft Word, basically, you're going to have to figure out how to do these things. Basically, it's best to be using Microsoft Word. But anyway, the first thing we're going to do is work on the header. The header is this top inch or so of the page, and it's real simple in Microsoft Word. You just double-click. and you're in the header. Now, this always is confusing month to month because I have to sometimes redo steps. But once you're in, you should click this guy here, different first page, meaning that the header is going to be slightly different on the first page versus all the other pages. Okay, pages 2, 3, 4, whatever. So we have to click that. And now we have to enter. And by the way, sometimes I don't have all the rules memorized, so I have to take a quick peek at the examples. So for example, here's my paper. So yeah, on this page, we need to type the words running head. Actually, I think the H in head is supposed to be lowercase, so that might be a small mistake that I've made. Let me take a quick look at this person's paper. Yeah, so running head, okay, colon, and then the full title of your paper, okay? Or if it's a longer title, you can give a shortened version of the title. So let's do that. I'm going to go back to my blank document, and I'm going to type the word running head, colon, and I'm just going to make up a title. English paper placeholder title. Obviously, you should not call your paper that. This just means that I'm creating a generic title. But there's the title of my paper. Notice, again, the R in running is capitalized, but everything else is lowercase. The title of your paper is in all caps. Deborah asks, will the video be up later tonight or tomorrow morning? It will be up tonight. Within an hour or two after the end of the session, it will be fully processed and uploaded. Okay. So this is very nitpicky, but the entire document, okay, the entire document from the header up top here all the way through the text of your essay down to the references page needs to be in Times New Roman 12-point font. So we have to fix that. Okay, I'm in the header and footer tab because it automatically puts you there when you double click the top quarter of your page. But if we just go back to home, we can have, for example, we'll change this to Times New Roman. It's already set for 12. We'll go back to header and footer tab. And the other thing we need to do is insert page numbers. You can do so here. I like using the menu because it gives me control over exactly where the page number should go. So if we go to insert page numbers, yes, we want it at the top right corner of the page, and we do want the number to show up on the first page. Okay. Now what happens always is that once I click OK, it sometimes takes away what I've typed. So actually, let me quickly copy this because I might have to redo this. Okay, insert page numbers. And yes, we want it to show up on the first page. Okay. And then, as you can see, it disappeared. So let's try to put that in again. Let's try to insert the page number. I have no idea why it does this. Actually, different first page. Make sure that's clicked. You might have to do things 2 or 3 times, and this is annoying. Insert page numbers. Show number first page. Okay, now this is still in place, but the page number has disappeared. Let's try. There we go. Okay, now it's back. So you have to play with it a little bit, but eventually you get it down. Jill says, so if your title's already short, let's say about 4 words, does it need to be shortened for the running head or no? Here's the rule. And this is the frustrating thing about APA, right? It has all these nitpicky rules. Like here on the first page, which is the cover page, by the way, the full title should appear, unless it's like so long that it goes off the edge of the page or something. On subsequent pages, you can shorten it, and I'm going to show that in just a second. But anyway, our header is in place, so we can just click out of here. Or in theory, I should be able to click out of here. This new version of Word kind of drives me crazy because it used to be I could just click out of. There we go. Now we're out. So we've got the page 1 header in place. Now we have to create the cover page. And there are 3 things we need to include on the cover page. We need to include the title of the paper, your name, and the name of the school you attend. And it goes in the middle of the page, okay, the center of the page, vertically and horizontally. And you can do this just by eyeballing. Okay, so I'm going to go down to the middle of the page. I'm going to make the page a little bit smaller so I can see what I'm doing. It needs to be centered. It needs to be double spaced. So why don't we go ahead and set up double spacing now so we don't have to do it for the entire paper. So I'm going to change spacing from 1.0 to 2.0. okay, from single space to double spaced. And here you are going to type the full name of your paper, but it's not going to be in all caps. Okay. You are going to capitalize important words. Okay. So if the word of were to appear, it would be lowercase, or, and. Okay. But I don't have such small words here, so all these main words get capitalized, initially capitalized, but they're not in all caps like here. Okay, so the title of your paper, your name, and the name of the institution. You are Full Sail students, so Full Sail University. And again, you just have to eyeball things. So that already looks pretty good. Maybe it could be bumped down one more. Yeah, that looks like the exact center to me, right? Looks like I didn't spell the word university right. Okay, so now that your cursor is right after, oh, and we also have to, this is another frustrating thing. Even though we set the font correctly for the header, we need to do so for the rest of the paper. So this needs to be Times New Roman. And once you get this set up, you're good, okay? But I'm going to place the cursor right after the word Full Sail University, and I'm going to hit enter until I get to the very first line of a new page. As soon as I get to that first line of a new page, I'm going to stop. Stop. Okay, so on page 2, we again type the title of our paper. The full title, okay, centered. Okay, we have to fix this too. Here's what we're trying to aim for. On the cover page, the word running head should appear and the full title of your paper in all caps. On all remaining pages, the header should eliminate these words because that's what running head is doing. It's telling you that throughout the rest of the document, here's the title of the paper. So you don't need the words running head on every page. Listen, if this part gets too chaotic and you can't figure out how to remove the words running head, don't worry, okay? I'm not going to be so nitpicky, but I am going to do things the right way because on all subsequent pages, yeah, the words running head should disappear. And that's why we have to go in, remove these words. And as you can see, the page number isn't appearing for some reason. So yeah, it's frustrating because I have to do steps multiple times for reasons I do not know. So let's try this again. Insert page numbers. Show on first page. Okay. I think we might have it. Okay. Because here. Okay. Oh, and I should say too that, okay, Jill, here, for example, I can give a shortened version of the title. Okay. By the way, again, do not title your paper English paper. Do come up, like the title of my paper is Animal Logic. Okay, the Jeep essay. Okay. The sample student paper from the past, yeah, it doesn't have the most original title. Diet Coke Ad Analysis, shortened to Diet Coke. Yeah, technically she should have the full title here and then a shortened form on subsequent pages. But again, these are the nitpicky things. I don't care that much about that. I mean, do try to do things correctly, but if it becomes too frustrating, don't worry. Getting the header and the page numbers to look just so, as you can see, it does require some finagling. Like here, why did it suddenly disappear again? Oh no, that's page 2. Yeah, but why did it disappear here? So running head, colon, different first page. Now let's see if the thing's fixed. And for some reason, my touchpad does not register sometimes. Okay, there we go. So, and to be honest, in a second, I'm going to give up because I have no idea. It usually doesn't take this much. Okay, I think we got it. Running head, full title, page number. Subsequent pages, no running head, page numbers. So we're good, okay? Finally, we've got it. Okay. Skylar says, every time I insert the page number, my title disappears. Right, but Skylar, did you see the same thing was happening to me? And it's super frustrating. You have to go back, type it in again. Remember to click that little tab, okay? different first page. And yes, when you try to insert page numbers, sometimes it makes the title disappear. Sometimes when you click on different first page, it makes it disappear. Sometimes you try to get word of the running head and it sticks. Just if you need to watch the video again, the first 10 minutes or so, or just this part where I was creating the header, and yeah, you'll see that the same thing happened to me. But if you play with it enough, you can eventually get it to look like this. And if you can't, don't worry. Okay, if the word running head appears on every page, don't worry. Okay, I have no idea why it's this awkward or difficult. So here we are on page 2. Okay, so we've centered our full title again, and the cursor is right after the final word. And we've already set up double spacing, so it's set up to be double spaced. We hit enter once, just once, not 2 times, not 3 times, and we can start typing our paper. Now, we have to be all the way over here, so I'm going to stop using the centering tool and use the align left tool. The first sentence of a paragraph needs to be indented, so you just hit the tab key once to indent and start typing your paper here. I'm going to type this a few times because I want to copy and paste it. Okay, let me go ahead and grab, your. So let me copy this. Notice when you reach the end of a sentence, a period, you should be hitting your spacebar twice. Okay, it shouldn't look like this. That looks a little bit crammed, and it should never look like this. Okay, so 1, 2. And because you have it set up for double spacing, it will automatically wrap around to the next line. This is why it's important to have double spacing, because if sometimes students have it single spaced and they treat the program Microsoft Word almost like the old days when people used to use typewriters, where you approach the edge of the page, you hit return twice, and then you keep on typing. But if you do that, it's not truly double spaced, and the computer will start doing weird things like automatically capitalizing the T in typing, the Y in you, or the P in paper, because it's recognizing it as a brand new sentence. That won't happen if you have it set up for double spacing. Okay, so I'm going to pretend that I'm typing away. Okay, and actually I'm going to go ahead and copy all this because I'm going to fill in huge chunks of text, pretending that I'm filling up the page. But notice, okay, double spaced. And when you reach the end of a paragraph, like let's say this is the end of the opening paragraph, you hit enter once, not twice, not 3 times. You hit tab to indent and keep typing. Because what the students sometimes do is they think that this looks cramped. So they put extra space here, they put extra space here, and no, that's not how it should look. Okay, it should look like this. And even if that looks cramped to your eyes, it isn't. Okay, here's an actual essay. Okay, here's the Jeep essay. Yeah, this is how things should look. And by the way, open a novel sometimes. You know, if you read the Harry Potter books or Twilight books, you don't see extra huge spaces between paragraphs. Same thing here. Okay, so you hit enter just once. So let me fill up huge amounts of text because I'm going to pretend that we filled up the entire paper. Okay, so we're typing away, we're typing away, we're typing away. And let's imagine that our paper ends sometime around here. Okay, so your paper is finished. I've placed my cursor after the final word of the essay. You keep hitting enter until you get to a brand new page. As soon as you get to the very first line of that brand new page, stop. There, stop. And this will become your references page. So the references page is a completely new and separate page. And you will center the word references. So references, okay? Not works cited, not bibliography, not sources, the simple word references. It should not be bolded. It should not be italicized. It should not be underlined. It should not be in all caps. It should not have a colon after it. Okay, just the simple, elegant word references. By the way, this is the beauty of APA and all style systems, is we're going for a consistent look. The entire document is in a single font, Times New Roman 12 point. Yeah, we don't put little flourishes to make it look better. Bolding this. Sometimes people even put this in a larger font. No, the entire document is in one consistent font size and style. And if it looks plain to your eyes, I would actually argue differently. I think the simplicity and the consistency actually makes it look more professional. When I see a document that looks like this, yeah, that looks professional. When you start just making up your own rules and bolding things and putting things in different font sizes, that actually looks a little bit chaotic. Okay, so the word references, we hit enter once, just once, and we can start building our references. Okay, but we're going to come back to this later, building references. So these are the basic rules for layout. Okay, your paper should look like this. And if you've been following along and you've pretty much gotten the same results that I've just showed you now, terrific. Save this, because what you can do is you can go into all this and replace it, right? So you can replace it with your actual title. You can replace this gibberish with your own wording, but the document's already set up. Okay, so that's layout. Now, there are two more things to talk about: in-text citations and references. Let me take a quick sip for my coffee. I have the Full Sail Library database open. By the way, I got maybe 2 or 3 questions that asked that video that is included in most of the instructions for major assignments. It's called Pathos, Logos, and Ethos in Advertising. I might have the order of those 3 words incorrect, but basically, Pathos, Logos, Ethos, or Ethos, Logos, Pathos, and Advertising, by someone named Matt Rosenau. Do you have to use that video? No. I know that somewhere in some of the instructions it says that students must use the video, but I don't want anybody forcing the video into their essays if they don't truly find it useful. So if you can find 3 sources, quality sources that you like, that's fine. My Jeep essay, I mentioned this last week, it has 6 sources. Okay, so 6 entries are on the references page. As you can see, I didn't use the video. Because, I just didn't feel like, for my paper, I could have found something, but I already had 6 sources. Okay, you need 3. And yes, I think it's fine to use the video. As I said last week, please do something more interesting with the video than just giving a textbook definition of pathos. Telling me that, quote, pathos is the appeal to emotion. That's not really research. That's just telling me the definition of a word. There must be something in the video that's more relevant to your discussion. But sure, if you can find something in the video, that's great, because you've got one of your 3 sources. You just have to find 2 more. But in my case, I'd already gone beyond 3 sources. I have 6 good sources here. And I just didn't feel the need to crowbar in information from the video. So you don't have to either. So look at it either way. You have that source if you want to use it, but you don't have to. Okay, I thought I mentioned that because I did have, I think, 3 people message me about that. Okay, but let's talk about in-text citations, because whenever you refer to research in the actual text of your paper, whether you quote something directly or just say things in your own words, but what you're referring to is information that comes from research, you need to cite it. And so if we look here, this paragraph has examples of both. Okay, this is in the paragraph about the Jeep ad that focuses on the Jeep ad's tagline. So, for example, here's an instance where I am paraphrasing. Okay, this is entirely my own wording, but the information I'm sharing comes from research, so I give credit. J.M. Fenster, that's the author's name. And last week I touched on this. If you mention an author's name in your actual sentence, it's just a rule. Immediately a year has to appear in parentheses. So I say J.M. Fenster, 1991, writes that Jeep, a wartime American creation, was valued by soldiers for its versatility. Okay, that's my language. I'm not quoting Fenster directly. Because of that, I'm done. Here, however, I do quote directly. And because I'm mentioning the author's name in my sentence, a year has to immediately appear in parentheses. So Norville, 2014, in his article, The Story of Jeep, Then to Now, also emphasized its utility, stating, quote, "The Jeep has become one of the most versatile vehicles ever produced," end quote. And when you quote directly, yes, you need a page or a paragraph number. But let's do this in real time, because you could certainly study the examples. But what if, let's go through the process of, let's say you were either going to paraphrase or quote in one of your paragraphs. So let's pick this paragraph here. Yeah, it's all filled with gibberish, but let's pretend it's an actual paragraph, okay? And let's say you're writing about the Call of Duty ad. And this is the paragraph where you're talking about the Call of Duty ad's use of music, right? Why does it use the Rolling Stones song, "Gimme Shelter"? As I've mentioned in previous sessions, to give people who are writing about the Call of Duty ad a kind of hint. Yeah, certainly the song is well known. It's energetic, it's upbeat, but lots of songs are energetic and upbeat. You know, the Call of Duty ad could have chosen one of 100 or 1,000 songs if that were the only criteria needed. No, the song is meaningful, right? There's a reason why they wanted that specific song. So let's say in my research, let me go quickly to the Full Sail Library and the research databases. And let me do that same search that I did last week using EBSCOhost. I'll just select all the EBSCOhost databases. "Gimme Shelter." That's the name of the song. Call of Duty. And you also might remember from last week's session, I said that research, it's not this fast. Okay, I already know how to trigger this specific article I'm looking for. I think I mentioned last week's session too that those 6 sources that are on my Jeep essay on the references page, that they took me hours to find. Okay, research was not something that was complete in 5 minutes. It took me hours to search various websites to find the information that I needed. But okay, even though this article from Billboard magazine is very short, and I think I mentioned this last week as well, perhaps this information is interesting, because even though it isn't commenting directly on why the song is important or why it's meaningful, it does give evidence that, yeah, Activision, this guy, this Activision Vice President of Music Affairs, Tim Riley, he specifically wanted this song. Okay, he flew to New York. He met with the rights holders. He even showed early edits of the ad to the band members of the Rolling Stone to get their approval. So that's strong evidence that, again, they wanted this song, right? Not just any song, this song. So I have 2 choices here. I could either quote something from this paragraph or paraphrase. I'll tell you in advance that paraphrasing is probably the best, because there's a lot of information here. And it can mostly be summarized by the writer, me, in a single sentence. Okay. Also, I should mention, be careful about doing things like this. Just grabbing huge chunks of information and quoting all of it. That's not how quotations work. You should be using mostly short quotations in support of your ideas, not the other way around. When people take huge amounts of text and quote it all, that's the article speaking entirely for you. Plus, even though it's not difficult, quotations over 40 words have to be put in a special format called block format. And though block formatting is not difficult, it will require, again, an extra step to learn how to do that. For the most part, you shouldn't be using quotations that long. Long quotations are only for situations where it's absolutely important that the reader digests all the information in that long quote, because you're going to do something with it. And thus it's crucial that the reader has already carefully read through that long passage and understood that passage, because you're going to comment on it and explain things. That's rarely what I see. Again, I'm not saying this happens often. Maybe it happens with a handful of students. But yeah, the students aren't doing that. They're taking huge chunks and quoting it because, I don't know, it fills up space, makes the paper longer. Or I shouldn't be cynical. I think mostly it's because they come across a passage where things are worded so well that, yeah, this person has already said things better than I ever could, so I'll just quote all of it. Don't do that. So first, let me try to attempt to paraphrase this information. Okay, so I'm going to explain things in my own words. That's what paraphrase means, by the way. You're not using any language that has any similarity to the original. I mean, listen, if you explain that the Activision Vice President of Music Affairs, Tim Riley, that's not plagiarism, because there's no other way to say that. But yeah, I shouldn't be saying "scoring, "Gimme Shelter" for the ad was no small feat." I shouldn't say getting the rights to give me shelter for the ad was no small task. Okay, you're using identical language, just changing a word here or there. No, you should entirely write things in your own language. So, okay, how do we paraphrase? First, we need to determine, do we want to use the author's name in our actual sentence or not? In this case, the author's name is Ann Donahue from Billboard magazine. So I could say something like, according to Ann Donahue. Now remember, if I mention an author's name in my sentence, I have to put the year in parentheses. Okay? And I think this is, 2010. So according to Ann Donahue. And you can add additional information if you want. You don't have to, but you could say, according to Ann Donahue of Billboard, magazine, the ad's creators specifically wanted, I'm having trouble typing today. Give me shelter for the Call of Duty commercial. I know, I need to fix that little error there. Okay. According to Ann Donahue of Billboard magazines, the ad's creator specifically want to give me shelter for the Call of Duty commercial. Even going so far as to fly to New York and obtain permission from the rights holders of the song and the band members and the Rolling Stones band members. Okay, I'm writing this on the fly, so I don't know if this is the greatest way to say it, but okay, let's read that over. According to Ann Donahue of Billboard magazine, the ad's creator specifically wanted to give me shelter for the Call of Duty commercial, even going so far as to fly to New York and obtain permission from the rights holders of the song and the Rolling Stone band members. Yeah, that finish is a little bit clumsy. From the rights holders of the songs and the Rolling Stone band members as well. Okay, so, and let me highlight this so you can see it better. There, we're done. A paraphrase doesn't require anything more than an author's name and page number. Now, when should you use the author's name in your sentence and not? I don't know. You'll feel which option is correct. For example, how important is it for you to mention the author's name in your actual sentence? In this case, yeah, mentioning Ann Donahue of Billboard magazine feels like a good choice because most people recognize that Billboard is a music magazine. So this is clearly somebody who probably knows what she's talking about. But I don't have to mention her name. I could find my own natural way. For example, I could say, according to an article in Billboard magazine, the ad's creators, blah, blah, blah. If I choose this option, where I don't mention the author's name in the actual sentence, then it goes at the end. Author's last name, Donahue, comma, year. And notice, the period goes after the citation. It doesn't go here. If you put the period here, what this technically means is that the sentence ends here, and then the next sentence begins, Donahue 2010, blah, blah, blah. That's an awkward way for a sentence to begin. No, the true end of the sentence is the end of the citation. Does this make sense to people? Because I think this is what makes students stumble, is that you always have two options. You can mention the author's name in your sentence, and if you do so, a year immediately has to appear, or you find your own natural way to deliver the information and save it for the end. Do those two options make sense? Can I get a yes or no from the crowd? Or a hey now? Okay, good. Okay, good. Everybody's saying yes. Because I do see students mix things, so they'll say, according to Ann Donahue here, but they don't put the year, and then here. Like, they'll do things like this. According to Ann Donahue of Billboard magazine, and then this. But that's not right, okay? If you choose this option again, you have to do that. And then no citation is needed here because you're done. Okay. When you say things entirely in your own words, an author's name and year is all that's needed, whether it's in the beginning of the sentence or if you don't mention the author. Actually, I could just undo what I was doing. Okay. So the information basically either goes here or it goes here. However, what if we're quoting directly? Okay. I think paraphrasing is the best choice for this much material. But let's say that I do want to quote something specific. For example, let's say I want to take this. For the first time in Activision history, it allowed another company to make it added. Okay, so let me grab all of that. Same thing. We could, let me get rid of this. We could mention the author's name. So, according to Anne Donahue. And if the author's name appears, again, same thing. The year has to appear in parentheses. According to Anne Donahue of Billboard magazine, the ad's creator specifically wanted to give me shelter for the Call of Duty commercial. And let's see how the quote works there. And indeed, okay. Sometimes it does silly things like this. So let me fix all this real quickly. Times New Roman 12. That's not Times New Roman. Double spaced. Okay, there we go. Let's see how this reads. According to Anne Donahue, 2010, of Billboard magazine, the ad's creator specifically wanted to give me shelter for the Call of Duty commercial, and indeed, quote, for the first time in Activision history, it allowed another company to make edits to the ad itself in order to obtain approval from the band members as well. Okay, that's a direct quote. So we have to put the exact quote in quotation marks. And then, because it is a direct quotation, we need a page or paragraph number. Now, why page or paragraph number? In this case, this is the HTML version of the article, and it's just one page. So there are no page numbers. So we have to count paragraphs. And this quote I took comes from paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It comes from paragraph 5. So I have to indicate that. So I use the abbreviation para, lowercase, period, space, 5. Paragraph 5. Okay. And actually, let me highlight all this so we can see it better. So again, same thing. If we mention the author's name in our actual sentence, the year goes right after, according to Anne Donahue, 2010. And then the quotation appears here. And then I have to indicate where it appears. And it's in paragraph 5. Or I can find my own natural way to lead into the quotation and not use the author's name in my sentence. So according to an article in Billboard magazine, the ad's creator specifically wanted the song for the Call of Duty commercial, and indeed, for the first time in Activision history, blah, blah, blah. Author's last name, comma, year, comma, page or paragraph number. Okay? So same thing. And this is what's confusing, because I think you do have, for the outline assignment, I don't know how many people looked at it, but there's a specific document on Intext citations that I wrote, and I compared to those Choose Your Own Adventure books. Remember, you reach certain parts of the books, and it said, if you choose to enter the castle, turn to page 12. If you choose to not enter the castle, go to page 42. It's kind of like that here. You have always two options. Do you mention the author's name in your sentence or not? Are you quoting directly or are you paraphrasing? And I think all those different options sometimes cause students to sometimes be confused. But it's basically, yeah, you always have, and it's all, are you mentioning the author's name in your sentence or not? Or a better way to maybe look at it is, you can save the full citation for the end, or you can break it up, right? So let me see if I can get back to the previous version. So it can either look like this, right? So part of the citation is here, and the rest of it's at the end. or you just save all of it for the end. Okay. Now, if you have any exceptions, most of you won't, but let's say you find a terrific source, but there's no author. Okay, there are rules for that. You take the first 2 to 3 words of the article title or the title of the piece and place them in quotation marks. So let's imagine that there's an article titled "The Road Ahead, the Road Behind." We would take the first 3 words, the road ahead, place them in quotation marks, and follow the rest, 2010, if that were the year, page or paragraph number. If it's a page number, you just use lowercase p, period, and then indicate the correct page number, like page 42. What if there's no date? If there's no date, we use the abbreviation N period, D period, lowercase, which stands for no date. Okay, most of you probably won't run into these situations, but you might. Or it may have an author's name, but no date. Or it might not have an author's name. So you take the first 2 to 3 words of the article title, place it in quotation marks, but it has a date. Okay? So yeah, there are rules in place if there's an author's name or if there's no date. But these are the general rules, okay? So first you have to decide, are you paraphrasing? Are you quoting? Second, you have to decide, am I going to use the author's name in my actual sentence or not? And again, you'll feelingly know which one to do. It does feel like maybe Ann Donahue could be mentioned because, again, Ann Donahue of Billboard magazine kind of gives credibility to what you're saying. Whereas, I don't know, John Smith of blah, blah, blah.com, maybe it's not that important to point out. Okay, so you'll have to be able to determine. And again, you'll be able to feel it. You'll be able to feel, is it worth mentioning this person's name in the actual sentence? Okay, so there's in-text citations. Next, we have to discuss references. Okay, so remember we left off, and because I've included information, that's why the references is now appearing here. But we'll just bump this to the very first line of a new page. And as soon as we get there, we'll stop. Okay, stop. Now we can start creating our references. Again, after the word references, we hit our enter or return button just once, and we can start creating our references. Now for the Ann Donahue piece, it's really simple. Okay, and I mentioned this last week. You do have this citation tool, which you're free to use, but you have to fix all the mistakes that it makes. Okay, because too often I see students just grab this and they think that they're done. No, you have to fix things. But I will take it. Okay, now we have to begin on the left side of the page. I'm going to click Match Destination Formatting to fix that. Okay, now it's in the same font size and style as the rest of the document. Author's name should not be in all caps. Citation generators love to do that. Okay, and if you remember from last week's session, APA has some pretty crazy rules that apply only to the references page. Article titles do not, the main words in article titles do not get capitalized or initially capitalized. You capitalize things just as you would a regular sentence. So this needs to be lowercase. All this is correct. And then we need to add a retrieved from line. And I misspelled the word retrieved. Retrieve from. By the way, there's no colon. Okay. Again, don't put a little flourishes. Just retrieve from. And then I'm going to grab. Remember last week I said you're fine with either one of two things, but be consistent. Okay. Either put the name of the database. This comes from Business Source Complete. So you could say retrieve from Business Source Complete. Okay. Or I'm also fine with you grabbing the permalink. The permalink, you click on this little chain link looking symbol, and it will give you the permalink, which you can copy and take over. Choose one or the other. Don't do both, or don't vary from one to one. So there's the permalink. And one final thing we need to do, which is properly indent the references. The best way to explain this is if we look at a typical paragraph, the first line of a paragraph is indented, the rest of the lines in the paragraph are not. On the references page, it's reverse. The first line is not indented, but any additional lines are. So we need to bump the second line over half a space. So I'm going to drag the little bottom half of this hourglass over half an inch, and boom. And the awesome thing is once you do this once, it's going to repeat it for any other additional entries you enter. Okay? And we can keep going and enter in other references. Now, I'm going to go and find a generic article online. I don't know the quality of this because I'm just looking for anything to use it as an example. So there's a soldier in all of us. Okay, so again, I'm not looking for a quality article right now. I'm just looking to grab anything. Okay, but let me choose something that... how about this? Okay, from Ad Age. What I want to show you is that even if you don't have a citation generator, it's very easy to create references because we have everything that we need. We have an author's name, we have a date, we have a title, and we can just start building. So let me see, RuPaul Parekh. Okay, so I'll double check the spelling in just a second. Author's last name, first initial. Okay, did I spell his name correctly? K-H. K-H. Okay, I did. And okay, this part is a little bit confusing too. Here we just use the year because for things that are published once a month or quarterly, yeah, we just need a year. But things like daily newspapers, websites, we should be providing a full date. Okay. If you forget that rule and only include a year, again, I'm not going to make a big deal about that, but technically we should be entering a full date. Let me double check how that date should appear. Yeah, so for example, year, full date. So this comes from 2010, November 4th. Oops, let me close that. So 2010, November 4th. And we type the full name of the month. We don't abbreviate. And we're putting periods after each section. So after the author's name, full last name, first initial, period. Date in parentheses, period. Then comes the title of the article. I'll just grab the whole article, copy it, paste it in. That is ginormous, but if I click on this little tool here, match destination formatting, it will automatically put, and look, we don't want this all in all caps, so we got to fix all that. Activision, Ready's Blitz for Call of Duty. Okay, and again, the rule is we capitalize just as we would a regular sentence. So in MLA, we would do this, okay? Ready, right? All these major words would be capitalized. Not in APA. We capitalize just as we would a normal sentence. They actually had this in quotation marks, which isn't really correct, but we'll keep it because that's part of the title. Can anybody answer the question? I just said that we capitalize as we would a normal sentence. So why didn't I do this? Why am I keeping this capitalized? Any thoughts? Okay, yeah, good. Christina and Terry. Yeah. Again, because if you were writing a regular sentence, this would be capitalized. Okay, titles of things, books, television shows, video games. Yes, they get capitalized. Or let's say the word Activision Ready's Blitz for Tuesday's release of Call of Duty Black Ops. The T in Tuesday would be capitalized because we would normally capitalize that. Again, we follow capitalization rules just as we would for a regular sentence. So we don't do this. No, we would do that. Okay? And for a general website, it's really easy. We put retrieved from, and we just go and grab the URL, the web address. And as you can see, it automatically indents correctly for us. I'd say the biggest issues I see in the references page is students don't indent. So everything's left aligned, which makes it difficult to see the separation. And they forget about the special rules for titles. So they capitalize all these words. Okay, these are nitpicky things, and I don't take off a tremendous amount of points, but it is, listen, it's part of the APA rules. If you can, I think it looks ugly when the link is actually active. So if you can just turn off the hyperlink, that would be cool. It is annoying that whenever you hit enter after the link, it becomes active, but you can remove it. And yes, author's name, arrange things alphabetically. Okay, so Donahue comes before Perec. Okay. Jill says, about referencing from a database, what if it includes the DOI? Okay, good question. If it has a DOI, you just include that number. Okay. And I believe you don't even have to put the words retrieve from. Let me double check. Okay, so by the way, this is projectapa.info. Remember, I showed it last week and even put it in the chat so you could click on it and hopefully save it. Newspapers, magazines, or databases. So there should be an example here. Article from a database with DOI. So as you can see, DOI. They put retrieve from the name of the database, but I don't think that's required. I think you can just provide the DOI and you're good to go. So actually, let me do one more search. APA reference with DOI. Yeah, as you can see, like in these examples, right? So here's the full reference, author's name, year, title of the article with the special capitalization rules. There's I forgot one huge thing. Okay, the name of the publication or website, italicized. This is like volume and page number information. And then just the DOI to end things. And here's the same thing, the DOI. Okay, so does that help, Jill? Yeah, you don't have to have a retrieve from line. The DOI itself replaces the need for that. Good question, though. And I did make an error. This one actually is incomplete because after the article title, we need this. Or maybe it's supposed to look like that. We need an italicized publication name, and that includes whether it's an actual journal or newspaper, but also a website. So if your article comes from Forbes, okay, if you want to put Forbes.com, that's fine, but Forbes, okay, or CNN, or Time, or Game Spot, okay. But that's, yeah, whether you have the citation generator or not, you can easily create references. Again, it's easy as pie. It's always the same thing. It's last name, first initial, John Smith, year of publication, okay, period, title of article, publication, italicized, and then retrieve from. This basic structure, yeah, that's all you need to do. And it's very basic. And notice, even for title of article, I didn't do this. Okay. So, okay, we've gone over layouts, citations, references. Hopefully this gives people a stronger sense of APA. You also have these sample papers, okay? So this Jeep essay, this Diet Coke essay, both of them also demonstrate how to, for example, here in the very first paragraph, the student is quoting directly. And she chooses to mention the author's name in her sentence. Advertising critic Gene Kilborn. So because the author's name appears, immediately the year appears in parentheses. Write, quote, and at the end of the quote, page or paragraph number in parentheses. Okay. Same thing here. When this person quotes from the video. Same thing here. Here's an example where she's again quoting Kilborn, but doesn't mention the Kilborn in her actual sentence, but saves it all for the end. So pick an APA document or tool that makes sense to you. If you like projectapa.info, great. If you like this lecture, great. If you learn best through example, you have 2 sample papers that show APA. You have a lot of tools at your disposal. Questions, comments. This is pretty much what I wanted to devote today's entire session to. Walkthroughs of APA. Okay, because my feeling is that, yeah, if you've been following along with the layout, you should be able to make your document look correct. And by walking through the steps in real time, creating in-text citations and references, you should be able to do so as well. But any questions at all over APA, the upcoming essay draft? The essay draft, I think, is, like I said, mostly explainable, self-explanatory. It should be your strongest possible work. In that sense, it's not a rough draft we're asking for. It should be, your strongest effort that you can possibly do for Sunday. But that's the main activity for this week. But because APA research is worth 20% of your grade, it's important that you're following the rules for APA. Okay, I'm going to hang out for a few moments and answer questions. If you're completely okay, though, with what we've discussed, you are free to go and enjoy the rest of your evening. I thank you so much for attending. We'll do the same thing next week. And thank you so much. Again, I'll hang out for a little bit and answer questions if people have them. Okay, you're welcome, people. And if people don't have questions, I'm going to take that as a sign that this session was so remarkably clear, so remarkably lucid that people are, they're 100% clear. Terry asked a question. We can write the APA by hand, keeping the format without the use of the machine. Reason why I use machine and paste, even keeping text only, when I try to edit the format, it just never looks right. So we could write it by hand. I'm not sure I follow the question. I mean, are you literally talking about putting pen or pencil to paper? Sure, you could do that for anything, the writing of the paper or APA format. Oh, that's okay. No, Terry, I'm not leaving. So if you want to reword things, I can't tell if you're literally talking about putting pen to paper or writing by hand. I'm just not sure how that would work as an advantage in terms of formatting. Or maybe you mean questions that do we need to use the machine? What do you mean by machine? Do you mean the citation generator? Like when I copied and pasted the exact APA entry for okay, I gotcha. So, did I leave that page? Here, I can get back to it quickly. Full Sail connect. Wow, slow connection tonight. Library, research databases, EBSCO search all of them. Gimme, Shelter, Call of Duty, and there's the article. Okay, so Terry, you're saying if you do things like this and try to copy this, it doesn't work? If you're using Microsoft Word, be aware that if you copy something in, it might look awkward at first, like this. Oops. But again, this little clipboard will appear. And if you just click Match Destination Formatting, it will automatically put it in the same font size and style as the rest. Okay. And then you have to fix things. Like I said, citation generators love to make errors. Here's the good thing. If you don't copy and paste, I do think it's most important that you know how to create references from scratch. Actually, I'm a little bit nervous when I recommend people using the citation generator because so many students don't fix the various errors that are made. and they think it's a shortcut, and in a way it is, but only if you fix the mistakes that it makes. Okay. It loves to put author's name in all caps. That's not correct. It sometimes likes to take the title of an article and put it in all caps. That's not correct. Or it capitalizes every major word in the article title, but that's not correct because APA has very specific capitalization rules where you capitalize the title just as you would a normal sentence. So yes, you need to be able to fix all those errors. Um, I mean, I think it's a great time savings tool because if it has the citation mostly correct and I just have to fix those little errors, yeah, it saves me time. But it can make me nervous as well. So Terry, don't worry if you have to do things from scratch. Again, when I created this generic structure, that's all you have to do. Author's last name, first initial, year in parentheses, the title of the article, an italicized publication name, whether it's a magazine, journal, newspaper, website, you have to put an italicized title. And then just finally that retrieve from information. Okay. So yeah, you should be able to do, if you have to create it from scratch, it shouldn't be terribly difficult. Okay, good question. Any other questions? Yeah, Terry, if you need me to create one more reference from scratch, I can do so. So Call of Duty, there's a soldier in all of us. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Here, okay. I have no idea if this is a relevant article or not, but oh, this one might be interesting because I don't think there's an author's name. Let's see if it appears at the end. Okay, so let's do this one because this one has no author. And actually, I should have gone over this. Oh no, there is an author right here, Simon Parkin. Okay, so we got everything that we need. Author's last name, Parkin, comma, first initial, Simon, S, period. Put the date in parentheses. So October 22nd, 2014. 2014, October 22nd. Again, for daily newspapers or websites, you should be putting a full date. If you forget it and only put 2014, I'm not going to make a big deal about that. Next, we need a title. So I'm going to grab all of this. And actually, this is already in proper capitalization for the most part, I think. Okay. And yeah, that's all screwy. So match destination formatting. Boom. And this is actually almost correctly right. Call of Duty stays capitalized because that's the name of something. After a colon, we do capitalize the first letter of the word, but everything else is in lowercase as it should be. Period. Then we need a publication name. This comes from The Guardian. Period. And then we need retrieved from. And since this comes from online, we just need to grab the URL, the web address. Boom. It's that simple. I should say though, since at first I didn't see the author's name, let's say this reference doesn't have an author. I should have covered this in the session, so I apologize. If there is no author, we just begin with the title of the article. Okay, we lead with the title, period, then the date, and then everything else. Okay, so yeah, there's a little bit of a difference there. Instead of an author's name, we lead with the title, and then we follow all the other steps: date, publication name, retrieve from. Okay. So yeah, APA can seem confusing at first, but really once you get it down, you can create references and citations in your sleep. But yeah, at first it can seem like a bunch of random idiosyncratic rules that are just thrown at you for no reason. But there is logic behind it. Once you learn that logic, you should be fine. Warren, I am grading outlines now, and I'm going to be burning the midnight oil because I do want to play catch up after taking a little bit longer last week with the worksheets. I want to catch up. But because, the due date was extended, so outlines didn't come in until midnight last night, I am going to, grade tonight and overnight, okay? Great. I think the questions are kind of slowing down, so I'm going to stop the recording. Now,